Hey guys, and welcome to my July wrap up for films, TV and music. So I thought I'd do something new on this channel and really talk about the films, the TV and the music I've been watching and listening to every single month, because quite frankly I spend a lot of time talking about the fact that I'm reading certain books because a TV show's coming out and it sort of reminds me about it, or it's an adaptation or whatever, but I don't actually talk about the actual film and TV I have been watching. So I thought I'd do it in a video and also tell you a couple of the things I've been listening to, because why not? So let's get into it. July, like I've been saying a lot, has been such a fandom month for me in the end, because quite frankly so many amazing things happened. Hamilton came out, it was the 20th anniversary of the X-Men, it was also the 10th anniversary of BBC Sherlock, and also McFly released a new single, which meant loads of things happened. So let's start with the films and then go into the TV and then the music. Obviously the first thing I have to mention has to be Hamilton, because Hamilton came out on Disney Plus on the 3rd of July and I'm in love with it. I am absolutely, completely and utterly in love with Hamilton now. I wouldn't say it's my favourite musical, that is still going to Wicked and The Greatest Showman, but I did thoroughly enjoy Hamilton. I've downloaded the soundtrack now. I cannot stop listening to Satisfied. I nearly started crying at the end. I can completely see why there's such a hype for this show, and it was absolutely brilliant. And then on the opposite side of Hamilton, I watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, because in June I watched The Hobbit, so I thought I'd continue it into the Lord of the Rings, because I've only watched Lord of the Rings once before this year. I watched it when I was a teenager, when I was about 16, 17, I think. I was doing my A-levels at the time, so I must have been about 16, 17, maybe 18, but I don't think I was. I think I must have been 17 at the most, to be honest, and I just remember watching the first one, enjoying it, then the next week watching like the second and third one back to back on a school night, and literally having to drag myself into school the next day after about 5 hours sleep, and then just sitting in this really tiny hot conference room for an English lesson with a teacher who had a really drony voice while learning about Romeo and Juliet, or something that I just was not interested in, and I can't remember anything about that lesson or that day at all, apart from being really tired and maybe saying to someone that still only counts as one, because he'd quoted it at me before I watched the film and then had to explain the reference. So when I finally got the reference, I told him again, and it sort of became a thing. But that's all I remember from the first time of watching it. So it was quite interesting watching it again, because I could then go, oh, I remember none of this, which was quite fun, because it's quite fun, because it felt like I was watching it for the first time. So I did quite enjoy it, but I've got to admit I think I prefer the Hobbit films in general, just because the Hobbit films just felt a bit more easier to understand. I felt Lord of the Rings was a bit more talky and I got lost occasionally, but I still did enjoy them. I then went on to The Old Guard, which is an adaptation from the Old Guard comic, and I loved it. Like I loved the comic. I love both so much. They were absolutely brilliant, and I'm talking this film was nearly a word for word adaptation of the comic. I'm talking it was so word for word I can literally recognise speeches throughout it that were taken straight from the comic, and quite frankly that is how you do it. That is how you adapt a comic or a book or anything. It was absolutely genius. Serious props to the director for doing that and actually really paying attention to the comic and just changing very few minor things. I really enjoyed that, and it was just generally such a good film, and now I am desperate for a sequel. Honestly, I'm going to need a sequel ASAP, because it was just so good. It was so good. I would say though that if you do not like blood, guts and gore and that kind of thing, I would not recommend it. But if you don't mind that kind of stuff, if you're okay with stuff like Deadpool and stuff like that, you should be fine. Obviously this is a lot more serious, but if you are fine with like Deadpool, Logan, stuff like that, you should be fine with The Old Guard. It was so good. And obviously I could not ignore the 20th anniversary of the X-Men being released without watching the first X-Men film again, and I loved it. I mean, I'm always going to love it. I'm always going to be biased towards the X-Men films because they are such a huge part of my childhood. I mean, my first crushes were on Bobby and Scott. Literally, I had a crush on both of those characters for like years, and I still do, not gonna lie. So obviously I rewatched it, I fell in love again, I fell in love with Logan and Rogue and everybody again. It was so nice to see the original cast again, because obviously I'm more used to the young set of James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, because they're the films that have been coming out more recently. But I love seeing the old cast again. It was absolutely brilliant, and I'm just really happy I rewatched it, and I'm going to end up rewatching the entire series. I'm telling you that now, the entire series is getting rewatched. And then speaking of Patrick Stewart, I did also manage to finish Star Trek Next Generation, all 7 seasons. Obviously I did not watch them all in July because I'd still be watching them now. It's basically taken me nearly a year to get through the entirety of Next Generation, which is a bit ridiculous, but to be fair, we have had a lot of stops and starts on that front. But in saying that, I still really enjoyed the series, and I really liked where it ended. I've started on the film, so I've watched Generations now, and that was really good fun. I've got to admit, it was weird seeing William Shatner and the original cast of Star Trek in it, because my original cast of Star Trek for me is Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto and Simon Pegg, because that's where I got into Star Trek, in the new reboot films, and then I've gone back to obviously Next Generation, and I'm working my way through up to Picard now. But it was quite interesting to see those characters and sort of see how they played them and how their characters played out. I quite enjoyed that level of it, and I quite enjoyed the film. I've got to admit, I really enjoyed watching like the Next Generation cast sort of playing around together on the holodeck, and I liked the storyline of it. And I really enjoyed seeing Data with his emotions chip, because obviously we haven't seen Data emotional before. We've seen Lore emotional but never Data. So I really enjoyed that exploration of it, because Data is my favourite character, not gonna lie. And I can't wait to watch the next 3, but I am slightly putting it off as well, because quite frankly I am just really not wanting to say goodbye to the Next Generation cast, because Next Generation has kind of gotten me through lockdown, so kind of not ready to say goodbye yet. But I've got to admit, I am really enjoying like watching the films and this cast, so I am excited to see the next 3 films in the coming weeks / months, depending on how badly I want to procrastinate watching it. I then took advantage of my Disney Plus subscription that I finally got and watched Cinderella and also The Mandalorian. Cinderella is obviously the live action version. I've been meaning to watch it for years because Hayley Atwell's in it, and Hayley Atwell is one of my favourite actresses ever. And I had a pretty good time watching it. I've got to admit, I was thinking I wasn't going to enjoy it that much because it's got some quite bad reviews, but I had a good time watching it. I've got to admit, it was fun. And I also managed to watch Mandalorian, and I've got to admit, it has just cemented that I am more of a Trekkie than a Star Wars fan. I've got to admit, but I still had a good time watching it. I really enjoyed watching Baby Yoda. I now want to dress up family members who are babies as Baby Yoda quite badly, but because it'd be so cute. But I really enjoyed Baby Yoda. I'll definitely be watching the second series, but I am mainly here for Baby Yoda, not gonna lie. And then the final 2 TV shows I am going to mention are BBC Sherlock and also The Umbrella Academy. So the BBC Sherlock I only watched 1 episode of, and that was A Study in Pink, because it was the 10th year anniversary of A Study in Pink airing for the first time, and oh the joy. I had so much fun watching the show again. Honestly, I had the best time watching the show again. I mean, I haven't watched that specific episode since January last year, because I rewatched the entire show before I went to the escape room back in January or February last year. I think it was January. And I just remembered how much I love the show and how much it means to me, because I know it's problematic in places and stuff like this. I know, but it just brings me so much joy to watch it. Just ridiculous amounts of joy to watch it, and to just see all my characters again, and everything else was just absolutely brilliant. And to just remember watching it for the first time 10 years ago at 14 and falling in love with it was amazing. I mean, I still remember watching it for the first time and seeing the brilliant 4 suicides and now I know, oh, it's Christmas moment, turning to my mum and going, he'd make a really good Doctor on Doctor Who, and both of us agreeing, not knowing he had been asked to play the 10th Doctor and had turned it down. But it was just amazing to watch it again and remember stuff like this, and just remember why I love the show and why I love the fandom so much. I love it so much, and I'm just definitely going to carry on rewatching. Definitely, this is not going to be just a one-day thing. I am definitely going to carry on with the series because I just love it so much. I love it so much. And then the final thing I've got to mention TV wise is The Umbrella Academy, because obviously I watched The Umbrella Academy on the 31st of July when the second series came out. Obviously before I watched series 2 though, I rewatched the entirety of series 1, so I basically spent 2 days just in the world of The Umbrella Academy, and Klaus still owns my entire heart. Series 1 Vanya is basically me in so many ways, and also my love for Ben knows no bounds essentially. But I'm going to say right now though, no spoilers, but series 2 was also amazing. The plot twists that came out of it were incredible. The storyline was so good. I loved all the character development. Episode 9, if you've watched it, was not okay in any way, shape or form, and that ending, the series, like the 10th episode ending, the series finale, had me screaming, and I'm not over it, and I'm never gonna be over it. But that show was absolutely incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed the second series, and I am so excited to get to another one. One thing though, I do wish that I had seen more of Ben in this. Obviously he was more in series 2 than he was in series 1, and he had a bit more of a storyline, but I've got to admit I still missed Ben in a few shots, because I still remember several scenes where I was going, where the hell is Ben? Which was slightly annoying, but I still really enjoyed it on the whole. It was a great series. I am desperate for series 3, despite the fact that series 2 came out less than a week ago at time of filming. And I'm just so in love with the show, quite frankly. I'm just in love with it. And as a nice end to this as well, I thought I'd tell you a couple of the songs I have been listening to. The first one is Happiness by McFly. Obviously that is McFly's new single, and it's pure happiness. It is pure happiness for me. I have not had a new McFly single since 2013, so this is incredible to have them back again. It came completely out of nowhere, where they just announced mid-July that, oh, by the way, we're releasing a new single at the end of the month, and also we've signed a new record deal and a new album's coming. It was like screaming. I literally cried. I literally started crying with joy because they're back again. I didn't expect it to happen so soon, and I'm just ridiculously excited, quite frankly. It's just been pure joy listening to this song for the past week and learning all the lyrics, finding the music video and all the rest of it. It's just been happiness without doubt, and I have pre-ordered the album immediately. I have the signed edition that's coming with the t-shirt in November, and I am horrendously excited, like horrendously excited for this, because I've been waiting for this for, well, I've been waiting 7 years for a new song, and I have been waiting, well, they actually put it 9 years, 8 months and 11 days since the new album. I've been waiting that long for a new album, and it's finally here, and I'm so happy. I am so happy. Then I've also been listening to a little bit of Little Mix, specifically Breakup Song. And yeah, I've just sort of had this growing love for Little Mix recently. I don't really have anything else to say apart from I've had a growing love for Little Mix recently. And that's really all I've been listening to this month, so I'm going to really leave it here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with what you've been listening to and watching and all the rest of it. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here. And over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time, guys, bye!